Good morning and welcome to Solving Puzzles with Python, and indeed welcome to the second recording of this tutorial, as halfway through the first recording my computer completely locked up. I had to scrap everything and start again. So without further ado, let's have a look at today's puzzle. Teams from Spain, Romania, Sweden, Wales, France and Italy are playing in a competition. If each team has to play every other team once, how many matches will they play? And what are those matches? So essentially creating a fixture list for any given team and coming up with the total of how many matches they will play. So let's have a look at this. Let's break this down a little bit. Let's have a look at this. Okay, so this is how we'll break down the program. We'll declare a list of teams. And by the way, thank you to draw.io for using this excellent online tool for creating flowcharts of many different types. So we're going to declare our list of teams. We're given a list of teams. We'll declare it at the beginning of our program. We'll ask the user to type in the team they want a fixture list for. We'll then have a loop, an iteration, and what this will do is iterate through the list of teams, creating a fixture for the inputted team. What it must do, of course, is ignore where the inputted team is playing itself. So if you type in Spain, what you don't want the program to do is record or print out a Spain versus Spain fixture. We need a match counter. Somewhere because we want to print out how many matches there are, and at the end of the program we will print that out. Now today we will take a slightly different structure. We're going to use a more functional approach, a more grown-up approach to programming. Normally I just write the algorithm start to finish, which is essentially that part of what we're doing today. But we're going to use a standard functional approach. We have a main program at the bottom of the program. The last thing we write is the main program, or the last thing that's shown on our IDE. It's a main program. That's the first thing to run, and the main program will call this function, which holds all our code. The declaration of that list is at the beginning of it. So without further ado, let's get on with this. Let's solve this puzzle with Python. We're going to use idle, the inbuilt Python compiler, or strictly speaking a translator, that comes comes with a download package when you download Python from python.org. We're going to start a new file, and start writing our program. So we start with imports the system files into our Python program, the standard package that you do each time that you import other libraries as well, but you always import the system files. We're going to declare our list. There we have it. Our teams, our list name is teams. Probably should have teams underscore list, but teams, and there's all the teams in our competition. It is a list of strings, so you have the speech marks. We'll put our main program in now. That's the main program. It is going to call our function called fixtures. The computer will know that it is a function because it has a set of brackets after it. It'll know by the name that it's not an internal function. It'll try. You can't call your functions the same name as an internal function, because the computer will try and run the internal function first, if it accepts it at all, which it probably won't do. So here's the start of our function. We're defining the function. It is called fixtures. It needs to be exactly the same as it is here, complete with the brackets. We're not passing any values to it. Needs a full colon. So the computer knows that the stuff afterwards relates to that. This is our counter for the number of matches. we're declaring it here. We're going to use it a bit later on, but that's going to be our counter for the number of matches. We've got a while loop here, and that will just enable our program to iterate round and run. It won't just crash out after the first running; it'll loop round. It's a cheaty way of doing while loops. We don't give it a value to compare. We don't say while x equals 7 or anything like that. We can just put while true and it'll loop round indefinitely. Couple of print lines to separate to improve the HCI, improve the readability when you run this multiple times. The output of the end of one program butts up against the beginning of the next program, and it's hard to see where one running ends and the other running begins. So put a couple of print lines in there, just improves readability. You'll see in a minute. Bit of user instruction: choose your team, give them the teams to choose from. It's important that it's spelled the same. These are all capitalized, and that capitalization needs to be continued, as does the spelling. Otherwise it won't recognize if you spelt Italy with an IE at the end, then it wouldn't recognize your input as being that Italy there. And there we are. We're asking the user to enter the name of a team from the list. Now this should run, and fingers crossed, because this is where the whole thing crashed last time, the tutorial crashed last time. So run module F5. It asks you to save it first time round. Let's call it fixtures. Save. Don't replace it. Yes, it does. That's from the first running. And there we go. Choose your team. Okay. So it'll take an input, and it'll just iterate around that while loop. It'll just run again. That's why it's quite good to have the empty print lines in there, because then you can see. There you go. Those print lines there appear there, so you can differentiate between different runnings of the program. A good bit of HCI there. Okay, so let's close that and continue with our algorithm. We've got the user input, and now we want to iterate round. We want it to iterate through the list and print out a fixture, except when you have a clash, such as Wales versus Wales, Italy versus Italy, or France versus France. Okay, so for the next bit of our algorithm, we're going to use a for loop, inbuilt counter, you don't have to declare that, for I in the range of 0 to the length of teams. Okay, so that's teams, the length is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so it'll loop round. It'll loop round every element of it. And what we want it to do is print out and count. Here's a tricky bit. If the inputted value is equal or the same as the element of teams that we're looking at. So if the inputted value is Spain, and the element we're looking at, teams element I, the first iteration 0, is Spain, then we want it to miss a beat, that we just want it to continue. Say, oh yeah, okay, and then just continue, not do anything, not update the counter, not print out the fixture. And that's the clever, if there is a clever bit to this program, that's the clever bit. Using the continue statement, it'll just ignore the effects if that is true. Now the rest of our algorithm. So if that doesn't apply, then we want to print the fixture. The inputted value x concatenated with v for versus, and then appended the teams element that we're looking at. We want to update our counter, and when this for loop is completed, has run its course, then we want to print out the counter. We don't want to print it out every time, so it'll just say 1 match, 2 match, 3 match, 4 after. We wanted to print it out at the end, and that's why this indentation is important. So means that the stuff that comes afterwards, the colon means the stuff that comes afterwards is part of the for loop, providing it's indented, and then that is indented, that is indented, that's indented. So those 1, 2, 3, 4 lines are part of the for loop, and indeed that, you've got a colon there, so that is indented, that is part of the if statement. This is not part of the if statement, this happens after the if statement has run its course. So this doesn't follow this indentation, this follows this indentation. This doesn't follow the indentation for the if statement or the for loop, because we want this to print out once the for loop has completed. Okay, and we can probably demonstrate that. In fact, let's try and demonstrate it like that. So this is now part of this indentation, and so it'll run fine, but it'll give us a slightly erroneous output. Okay, save and run. Okay, there we go. Choose your team. Spain, no, Wales. Pick Wales. And there you are. See, it's given us the fixtures and it's given the total, but it's put in the number of matches after each fixture. It's printed out the total of the count after each fixture, which is not exactly what we wanted, and that is because cancel. Come on. There we go. And that is because this is part of this. If we move it out of that, out of the indentation for the for loop, if we move it out of the indentation for the for loop, this line will run after the for loop, and we can demonstrate that. Let's close that. Okay, let's rerun it. F5. Okay, run it again. Wales. There we go. And there we are. It's only producing the total number of matches at the end, and it gives us a very handy fixture list. If you're doing 2 legs, home and away, then you can just repeat that for loop. Well, there's very many ways of doing it. Alter the string so that comes first and that comes second. But just having one set of matches, a home match if you like, then it gives us 5. Quite a neat little program. Can be useful. Good exercising program, functional approach, indentations, nested loops, if statements, everything. It's quite flexible as well. I think you should be able to you can just add a team and it will just accept it, and this is a good example of scalable programming. So we can just throw in another team as we got a late entry into the tournament. F5 it, and it should run. Should just accept that. There, Portugal's added at the end, and I can put Portugal as the team I want to look at, and it gives me all the Portugal fixtures, and it's gone up to 6. Excellent. So thanks for listening, and see you next time on solving puzzles with Python.